Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Giving honor unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This particular presentation, I can't say it's not going to be long. Nonetheless, brothers and sisters, it is due to the fact that there are Israelites who say that the tribe of Dan is destroyed. We've gone over this presentation in the past. However, the difference between that and this one, or those in this one, is that we won't be using, say, PowerPoints in this particular case and in that particular manner. We will, brothers and sisters, use pictures, scriptures, have it with you, and so forth and so on. All right? So, brothers and sisters, without any further ado, we're going to go into this particular presentation. We will be using the scriptures, be it the KJV or the King James Version, or when not, it will be noted otherwise, brothers and sisters. On a human level, want to acknowledge the sister who made this, Fab Aim, in regards with this right here, brothers and sisters. This picture you see here is a picture that I got from the Macmillan Bible Atlas. This picture you see here of the sea and the sky, brothers and sisters, is a picture that I got from online. And the meme that you see in the center of it is what in part makes a brother want to go into this kind of presentation, if we will. As that says, brothers and sisters, Dan is not gone, only exiled like his brothers, as seen here, if we will. To teach brothers and sisters that say the tribe of Dan is gone or destroyed or not in existence does not hold weight in reality with the scriptures itself. All right, in the past, we've gone over a matter, and we're going to go into it right now, if we will. Jeremiah, the 31st chapter, reading out of the standard KJV, and it reads as follows, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. Jeremiah chapter 31, we are in verse 35, and it says the following. Thus saith the Most High, who giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. Yah Zebaoth is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith Yah, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. Thus saith Yah, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith the Most High. We want to go from there to Jeremiah chapter 33, if we will. We in Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 19. And the word of Yah came unto Jeremiah, saying, Thus saith Yah, if ye can break my covenant of the day and my covenant of the night, and that there should not be day and night in their season, they may also my covenant be broken with David my servant, that he should not have a son to reign upon his throne, and with the Levites, the priests, my ministers. As the hosts of heaven cannot be numbered, neither the sand of the sea measured, so will I multiply the seed of David my servant, and the Levites that minister unto me. Let's go to verse 25. Thus saith Yah, if my covenant be not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the ordinances of heaven and earth, Then will I cast away the seed of Jacob and David my servant, so that I will not take any of his seed to be rulers over the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For I will cause their captivity to return and have mercy on them. Brothers and sisters, the Davidic line, or the line of David, is going to be reestablished in the earth. That is what we are reading in that particular manner right there. Brothers and sisters, we want to point out for edification and reasoning purposes, if we will, regarding the matter of the tribe of Dan. Let us go into the book of Amos, chapter 8, brothers and sisters. The book of the prophet Amos, chapter 8, and we're going to start in verse 14 so we can gain something for edification purposes. And it reads as follows. Amos 8 and verse 14 says the following. They that swear by the sin of Samaria and say, Thy God, O Dan, liveth, and the manner of Beer Sheba lives, even they shall fall and never rise up again. What is that saying, brothers and sisters? It says, They that swear by the sin of Samaria and say, As thy God, O Dan, lives. That's not talking about saying the Most High God. That's talking about the idol, brothers and sisters, that was set up in the land of Dan. And as the way of Sheba liveth, and the way in the sin of Samaria lives. Those were lands. We're going to go over that in this presentation. Dan was a land, Samaria was a land, Sheba was a land. It's talking geographically of the land of Israel itself. It's saying they who swear by those sins and go according to that, even they shall fall and never rise up again. Brothers and sisters, Amos 8 and 14 is not saying that the tribe of Dan will fall and never rise up again. That's not what that's saying. Brothers and sisters, when we read in Amos 8 and 14, right, that is talking about the people in those lands. So we want to emphasize that for a reason and purposes. Again, showing this here, if we will, brothers and sisters. This right here is the flyer that was created for such purposes. We want to, with the notes given, if we will, concerning the house of Israel, namely in this case the tribe of Dan, not being destroyed. Let us get into this. In the book of Chronicles, we read the following. These are the sons of Israel: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar and Zebulun, Dan, Joseph, and Benjamin, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. That's from the book of Chronicles, chapter 2. Goes on to say, and the sons of Dan, Hushim. That's from Genesis chapter 46. And the seventh lot came out for the tribe of the children of Dan, according to their families. And the border of their inheritance was Zorah, and Eshtaol, and Ir Shemesh, and Sha'alabim, and Aijalon, and Itla, and Elon, and Timnah, and Ekron, and El Taqwe, and Gibeton, and Baalat, and Yehud, and Bene Barak, and Gat Rimon, and Me Yarokon, and Rakon, with the border over against Joppa. And the border of the children of Dan was too straight for them. So the children of Dan went up and fought against Leshem and took it, and smote it with the edge of the sword, and possessed it, and dwelt therein, and called Leshem Dan, after Dan their father. Brothers and sisters, what we just read came from the book of Joshua, chapter 19. In the scriptures we have just read, and I'm going to post this in here, right? First, Chronicles 2, Genesis 46, and we have Joshua 19. In that particular case, brothers and sisters, it distinctly says that the children of Dan went from one land where they was at and went over to the land of Laish. We want to show, brothers and sisters, what in part we are talking about, if we will. If we look right here, right? This is Dan Laish in this part that we're speaking of in this particular manner, with the map showing of ancient Israel, right? Dan Laish. Now, brothers and sisters, that was the northern part where the tribe of Dan was. We want to emphasize that in the book of Joshua, it distinctly says that they named it Dan after Dan, their father. So Dan, we know, was a land, brothers and sisters, in that particular case. Now, the other portion in Joshua that we read, if we will, right, is shown more so clearly in this map here. All right, so you had Dan that was further south, all right, and then you had Dan, brothers and sisters, that was in the northern parts. Joshua chapter 19 distinctly says on the border over against Joppa or Yopa. So the Danites lived not far in the southern part where, if we will, where the Philistines was at. In the time of Samson, if we will, brothers and sisters. We know good and well, all right? Excuse me. We know that the tribe of Judah and Samson of the tribe of Dan were talking one with another. So it shows you that they did live in close proximity of each other in that particular case. All right? Brothers and sisters, we'll get back to that map. But let us continue on in the presentation. It says, and they called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan their father, who was born unto Israel. Howbeit, the name of the city was Laish at the first. Now, that, brothers and sisters, comes from the book of Judges, if we will. Judges chapter 18. So we can cite scripturally where we're going and what we're studying upon in this particular manner. It goes on to say, then all the children of Israel went out, and the congregation was assembled as one man, from Dan to Beersheba, with the land of Gilead, unto Yah at Mizpah. That is in the book of Judges, chapter 20. What do we want to point out in that particular case? It distinctly says what? It says in quotes, if we will. I want to highlight that part in part so we can see what we're talking about, right? And it says there, from Dan even to Beersheba. Those are lands, brothers and sisters. And that becomes important when understanding Amos 8 and 14. Because in the scriptures in Amos chapter 8, verse 14, it distinctly, brothers and sisters, lets us know that Dan, Samaria, and Beersheba were lands. All right. Ladns, all right, or Aradzot, if you will, in Hebrew. So these are things, as we keep on saying, to be pointed out. It goes on to say, and all Israel from Dan even to Beersheba knew that Shemuel was established to be a prophet of Yah. That is in 1 Samuel chapter 3 that we just read. In that portion right there, distinctly says what? That from Dan even to Beersheba. So the Dan that we're talking about, brothers and sisters, is a land that was in the land of Israel. Not only was Dan a tribe, Dan was also a land, if we will. It goes on to say, and Judah and Israel dwelt safely, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. Now, depends upon what version of Bible you have. That is in 1 Kings chapter 4 or 5. All right. When it distinctly says there, as we're going to show, all right, as it says there, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. Now, we want to emphasize the importance in this presentation regarding 1 Dan, 2 Solomon in this particular matter. So, let us continue on in this. This particular picture, meme. Now, before I copied it from online, I asked the person who posted it, all right, who made it. And I was told that it was unknown who made this. But let us look. You have here Northern Kingdom, and here pictured Southern Kingdom. And in its picture of the Southern Kingdom, it has Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Then it goes on to say the divisions of the division of the nation of Israel after the death of King Solomon. Now, that's what this says right here, right? After the death of King Solomon, it is saying here that you had the southern kingdom and here you had the northern kingdom. Now, in the picture that they have here of, say, the northern kingdom, all right, if we will, we have named in this particular thing here Ephraim, Manasseh, Simeon, Zebulun, Gad, Reuben, Asher, Issachar, and Naphtali. Now, in this entire thing, the tribe of Dan is not mentioned, be it on the southern kingdom side or on the northern kingdom side. The tribe of Dan is not mentioned, yet we see Solomon mentioned here. So let's go back, if we will, to where we read in the scriptures itself. And it distinctly says, and Judah and Israel dwelt safely, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. All right? That has to be noted for understanding purposes. We're going to get back to that picture that we just showed, but we want to continue on in this particular presentation. Okay? Now, after Solomon, you had the divided kingdom. And Solomon's son Rehoboam ruled over the southern kingdom. Solomon's servant's son, named Jeroboam, ruled over the northern kingdom. And let us see what the scriptures goes on to say. This is from 1 Kings 15. All right. And it says this. And Ben-Hadad hearkened unto King Asa, and sent the captains of his armies against the cities of Israel, and smote Ijon and Dan, and Abel Beth Ma'akah, and all Kinneret, with all the land of Naphtali. All right. Now, brothers and sisters, right there in that particular case, it is saying that Ben Hadad, which is one of the leaders of the Arameans, right? Asa, as it mentions there, is the king of the southern kingdom and sent captains of his armies against the cities of Israel and smote Ion and Dan. Now we're going to, brothers and sisters, highlight some of this here, right? And you see where the highlighted part, it says of Dan in that particular manner. King Asa, as we pointed out, because you had Solomon, Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa. Asa was the king descended from the line of David. He happened to rule over the southern kingdom of Judah. Now, remember we just read here, right, in 1 Kings 15, that it says Abel Beth Ma'akah. Let's go back, if we will, brothers and sisters, to the map that we showed earlier. Remember we were talking about Dan in the north, right? Like right over here. Well, this is the Ma'akah area that the book of First Kings is talking about, if we will, for edification purposes. And this is not to get sidetracked, but there's no way in the world you're going to read all these names and think these people were Europeans. Not them kind of names. But anyway, getting back into this, if we will, right? It says this. Howbeit, from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, wherewith he made Israel to sin, Jehu departed not from after them. The golden calves that were in Beit El and that were in Dan. So we want to point out, brothers and sisters, this important matter right here, right? What we just read came from 2 Kings chapter 10. Now, how is it that this chart that was shown and presented to people, if we will, brothers and sisters, right? How is it that it says that that is the division of Israel with the northern and southern kingdom after the death of Solomon, but it does not have Dan? That is a question, brothers and sisters. I'm going to rip this part out. Sorry. We're going to keep on having to refer back to that. All right. How is it that this does not have the tribe of Dan in it? Yet it says the division of the nation of Israel after the death of King Solomon. And Dan is not in it. Why does that become important for what we're talking about? Because, brothers and sisters, Asa, king of Judah, right, was after the era of Solomon. Asa was after Solomon, brothers and sisters. So when we go now back into First Kings chapter 15, remember King Solomon, he passed away in First Kings chapter 11. So now, if we're seeing Dan mentioned right here in First Kings chapter 15 during the reign of Asa, how can that be, brothers and sisters, if the tribe of Dan, according to this, is not even listed? See, when you're looking at this, Dan is not listed on this, brothers and sisters. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Now, the true listing of the kings is this of the southern kingdom: Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa, Jehoshaphat. Yehoram, Ahaziah, Joash, Amaziah, Uzziah, Yotam, Ahaz, Hezekiah, Manasseh, Ammon, Josiah, Jehoahaz, Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, and Zedekiah. All these kings are from the line of David. No one who was not of the seed of David sat on the throne of Israel. So, brothers and sisters, we will have to know and understand the history of Israel in part. David, Solomon, after Solomon, the kingdom split. According, if we will, go by this particular listing, sorry about that, Dan is not on this. If you look at the list here, you have in the southern kingdom Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And then whoever made this put the name Solomon in there. And in the northern kingdom, you have Ephraim, Manasseh, Simeon, Zebulun, Gad, Reuben, Asher, Issachar, and Naphtali. Dan is not listed on either side, be it the northern or southern kingdom. Yet in the scriptures, as we've been citing, 1 Kings chapter 15, 2 Kings chapter 10, Dan is mentioned after the death of Solomon. So we have to know, do we go by this example, or do we go by studying to show one approved and according to the scriptures itself? All right, if we will. Jeremiah chapter 4 says this: If thou wilt return, O Israel, saith the Most High, yea, return unto me. And if thou wilt put away thy detestable things out of my sight, and will not waver, for hark, one declareth from Dan, and announceth calamity from the hills of Ephraim. Brothers and sisters, we want to, for edification purposes, all right, explain what we're talking about. And in this particular manner, if we will, we want to take time out, not a time out, but take time out to show a map of what we have just read according to the scriptures itself, right? And I'm not doing this set in PowerPoint. I want to do this live and showing the actual paperwork and so forth because of something I was advised to do in that particular manner. All right? If we look, brothers and sisters, at this map here, this is coming from the Bible Dictionary by Grant and Rowley, second edition. Right? And let us look, brothers and sisters, at this map right here. You have where the finger is at, Ephraim. If you see that right there in that particular case, that's Ephraim. We just read Ephraim, brothers and sisters, in the book of Jeremiah. And south of that, in this particular case, is Dan. So Ephraim and Dan, right there shown in a map. Now, brothers and sisters, that was part of the settlement of when Yisrael went into the land of Canaan. Okay? In light of that, if we will, brothers and sisters, when we read Jeremiah chapter 4, where it says, and we're going to read it again, for hark, one declareth from Dan, and announceth calamity from the hills of Ephraim. So, brothers and sisters, Jeremiah began to prophesy during the era of Josiah, who was a descendant of David. Josiah ruled during the era when Assyria and Babylon and Egypt, all of the kingdoms around the Israelites, were at odds with each other. You had Ethiopia, you had Egypt, you had Babylon, you had Assyria. Israel was right in the midst of all of that geographically. So these are things we wanted to point out for the reason and purposes. Jeremiah, during the time of Josiah, was centuries after the death of Solomon. With that being the case, brothers and sisters, there's no way that this presented chart can be accurate regarding the history of the Israelites, because Dan will not be mentioned in the scriptures after the death of Solomon. Dan is mentioned during the era of Asa, king of Judah, and during the era of Ahab, king of Israel, during the era of Jehu, king of Israel, during the era of Jehoshaphat and Jehoram, who were the kings of Judah. All of those people just mentioned were after the death of Solomon. So if this presented chart had been accurate, Dan should have been on there. If we are reading the scriptures line upon line, precept upon precept, if we will. Brothers and sisters, let us continue on in this here. Jeremiah was after the timing of King Solomon. So when we see centuries after Solomon's death of Dan in the time of Ahab and the time of Jeremiah, the prophet, we know that the picture not having anything of Dan is not accurate. We want to furthermore explain the matter, if we will, brothers and sisters. According to this, we see that in the northern kingdom, if we're looking at this particular presentation here, right? It has Ephraim, Manasseh, Simeon. In the southern kingdom, we see Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Now, what do we want to point out, brothers and sisters, before we continue with Dan and close out? This here has the northern kingdom tribes as Ephraim, Manasseh, and Simeon. We're going to go back into the scriptures and we're going to read Joshua chapter 14 and let the book speak for itself. In Joshua, the 14th chapter, we see the following, if we will. And these are the countries which the children of Israel inherited in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest, and Yehoshua the son of Nun, and the heads of the fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel, distributed for inheritance to them. By lot was their inheritance, as Yah commanded by the hand of Moses, for the 9 tribes and for the half tribe. For Moses had given the inheritance of 2 tribes and half tribe on the other side Jordan. But unto the Levites he gave no inheritance among them. All right, goes on to say, for the children of Joseph were 2 tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim. Therefore they gave no part unto the Levites in the land, save cities to dwell in, with their suburbs for their cattle and for their substance. What we just read is in the scriptures in Joshua 14. In that, the Levites have no land inheritance. So you have the tribe of Manasseh and the tribe of Ephraim. They geographically had it to where there was 12 tribes in that particular case, because the Levites had no particular set land among the Israelites. They were throughout everybody else's tribal territory. So that's something we want to point out for reference purposes. Brothers and sisters, concerning getting back to this, if you will, this has in the northern kingdom Ephraim, Manasseh, and Simeon. Brothers and sisters, let us read the scriptures itself. And we're going to read Joshua chapter 19. And it says this. And the second lot came out for Simeon, even for the tribe of the children of Simeon, according to their families. And their inheritance was in the midst of the inheritance of the children of Judah. Out of the allotment of the children of Judah was the inheritance of the children of Simeon. For the portion of the children of Judah was too much for them. Therefore, the children of Simeon had inheritance in the midst of their inheritance. What does this say in Joshua chapter 19? Now, I typed this up and so forth and so on in this particular aspect, right? It says that in Joshua 19, that the people of the tribe of Simeon lived within the land of Judah. So out of Judah, geographically, Simeon was among them. Brothers and sisters, we want to show in part what we're talking about. This here, we see, right? This is a map, Judah, Judah's land. And within that, you have Simeon. Simeon is within the land of Judah, geographically. So we can show this in the map here. And we can just, as we read, for those who care for maps or not, right in Joshua 19, it told us that the land of Judah also had the land of Simeon in it. We know that Judah was the southern kingdom. Now, was there Levites among the people of Judah in the southern kingdom? Yes. Was there Benjamin? Yes. Levi? Yes. Simeon? Yes. Within the southern kingdom, if we follow in the scriptures, Simeon is not in the northern kingdom as this particular map has. So now, after the death of Solomon, brothers and sisters, you had it to where Simeon would have been on this side, on the southern kingdom side. We're going to read that portion again now in the book of Joshua, chapter 19, if we will. And it says this: And the second lot came out for Simeon, even for the tribe of the children of Simeon, according to their families, and their inheritance was in the midst of the inheritance of the children of Judah. So, as we can see and point out, right, that within the land of Judah was the land of Simeon. So, how then do you have a map, brothers and sisters, not a map, but a presentation or a sheet having Simeon in the northern kingdom? Simeon is not in the northern kingdom, never was in the northern kingdom. Simeon, from the days when Israel first got into the land of Canaan under the leadership of Joshua, was within the land of Judah. So you would never have it to where Judah is in the south and Simeon was in the north. But according to this, Simeon, brothers and sisters, is in the north. And I say this in no disrespect. This is how you can perhaps denote, tell, reason. I say in due respect, who studies reference material, geography, timeline, names, maps, persons, places, which is geography itself. Who studies that and who does not. This whole presentation here in this sheet does not have the tribe of Dan in the north or the south. Furthermore, it has Simeon, the tribe, in the north, where we just read in Joshua 19. You can read it in your own time. And we're going to show the map yet again, where Simeon is in the southern kingdom with Judah. See? Simeon right here in Judah. Simeon was within the land of Judah. So therefore, brothers and sisters, no disrespect intended. When you present information, brothers and sisters, I wrote 11 books, Thank the Most High. There were times in which I had to retract something and then put a footnote or make a video about it. Like, this information I stand corrected on. So be it. But you don't present this with no disrespect intended. Not one scriptural citation, nothing mentioned from the Bible or where someone can reference something. And then, no disrespect, one put the name after the death of Solomon. So if we were to look at this from the pinpoint of the death of Solomon, we already went over, all right, for those who joined on, thank you for participating, right? We already explained after Solomon, you had his son Rehoboam, Abijah, and Asa. Dan is mentioned during the time of Asa, brothers and sisters. After Asa, you had Jehoshaphat, Jehoram, Jehoash, and Amaziah. During the era of King Jehoshaphat was during the era of Ahab. Jehoshaphat in the southern kingdom, Ahab in the northern kingdom. During the era of Ahab is when he put the idol that Amos 8:14 talks about when it says in Dan. So brothers and sisters, Dan is not destroyed. We want to explain what Amos 8:14 is talking about, if we will. All right, let us go back there. The book of Amos, chapter 8, verse 14, and let the book speak for itself. It says this: They that swear by the sin of Samaria and say, Thy God, O Dan, lives, and the manner of Beersheba lives, even they shall fall and never rise up again. Let us go to 1 Samuel, chapter 3, verse 20. We are in the book of the prophet Samuel, the third chapter. We're going to start in verse 20. And it says this, for edification purposes. Sorry about that. Page got stuck. And it reads as follows. Amos 3, verse 20. And all Israel from Dan even to Beersheba. So from Dan to Beersheba is geographical points in the land of Israel. We already read that Beersheba is a part of the land of Simeon. Simeon, the tribe in ancient Israel, during the era of Solomon for sure, is part of the southern kingdom. All right. Here we see, if we will, Simeon. Here we see Beersheba. So where, brothers and sisters, if we will, right, where Dan was in the north, we want to show that again. Where the tribe of Dan was in the north, where Laisha Lashem was, this is mentioned later on after the death of Solomon during the era of King Asa of Judah. So how do you have a whole tribal chart mentioning Solomon, but you don't have the tribe of Dan or neither the northern kingdom nor the southern kingdom? How do you have Simeon, which was within Judah, as we shown in the map, read in Joshua chapter 19, because I don't want to just show pictures and diagrams and then not use the book, as we call it, and know it to be. So the scriptural citation, so your map. So the scriptural citation, so your evidence externally, if you will. Some people, understandable, like my teachers, I don't need nothing else but the book. Understand and respect it. But we wanted to, brothers and sisters, present this to the people at large. You understand? How you don't have Dan in this whole presentation, in this sheet? And how was Simeon listed under the wrong side of the kingdom? Brothers and sisters, there may be an answer as to why. And I'm going to type this in first. Esau. Now, Esau is Edom when you go in the book of Genesis, right? Whether you say today that Esau is the Jewish man, whether you say today that Esau is the white man of today, whether you say Esau is part of the people in Nigeria today, because there's a tribe in Nigeria that lay claim to being the people of Esau. That's a whole other subject. Whoever you say Esau is, even if you say Esau is the Arabs, those are some of the teachings going around. Some people say Esau or Edom. One is the Jewish man, one is some Nigerians, another one is the Arabs, the other one is the white man. So regardless of whoever say Esau, whoever people say Esau is, right? That can be the reason why Dan, in many people's understanding, is not in existence. According to an ancient record, for those who lay claim to it, the book of Joshua, it says in there that Dan's son, Hushim, that we read of in Genesis 46 earlier in the presentation, that Dan's son killed Edom. And this is why that's in the book of Joshua, right? Now, if that case proved to be the case, Genesis 49 says that Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan means judge. Dan also means to vindicate or to avenge. We already know, brothers and sisters, that Edom, the direct son of Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob's older brother, wanted to kill Jacob. Jacob, we know later on, became Israel. You understand? So now, if we were to take as evidence in truth the record left in the book of Joshua that Dan's son, Hushim, killed Edom, then we can know and understand why Genesis 49 says Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be the serpent in the way, the horn snake in the path that bites towards the field so the Rutherford is backward. For your salvation do I hope, O Most High, says Jacob. Jacob was on the run from Esau for who knows how long. Dan's son, according to the book of Joshua, avenged for his grandfather Jacob. So now, when Esau or Edom, whoever you say Esau is, whether you say he's the white man, the Arab man, some Nigerians, or the Jewish man, right? Whoever you say Esau is, brothers and sisters, we want to point out that it distinctly says Esau wanted to kill Jacob. So now when Esau gets power, prestige, if you will, they get a hold of our records, whom we do know of the true Edomites during the era of Herod, brothers and sisters. Prior to Herod, you had the guy who was the nephew of Judas Maccabeus by the name of John Hyrcanus. John Hyrcanus is the son of Simon Maccabeus. All right. I spoke about that in if we will show in this book here, brothers and sisters. You can get this book online for those interested. All right. This book is called Israelite History as it Relates to the World. That book is available online for those interested. So, brothers and sisters, what are we saying in this particular manner about Dan? One, is not destroyed. Dan, like his brothers, are in exile. We Israelites already know Leviticus 26. We know Deuteronomy 28. We know this one too, but I want to read it, if we will. If I can be heard, give me a 1, please, brothers and sisters. All right. We are in, if we will, Jeremiah chapter 16. We're going to let the book speak, okay? And let's see what it says. Okay, thank you to the people who typed in 1. And it goes on to say this. Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 10. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt show this people all these words, and they shall say unto thee, wherefore hath Yah pronounced all this great evil against us? Or what is our iniquity? Or what is our sin that we have committed against Yah, our power? Then shalt thou say unto them, because your fathers, speaking to the Israelites, because your fathers have forsaken me, saith Yah, and have walked after other gods, and have served them, and have worshipped them, and have forsaken me, and have not kept my law. Jeremiah 16, verse 10. Hold your hand there. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28, verse 20. So we can gain some understanding of how it's line upon line in part, right? Deuteronomy 28, verse 20. All right. 28, verse 20. And it says this: the Most High will send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, and all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of your doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. Brothers and sisters, that is in Deuteronomy 28, verse 20. We have a book that's written. This book, for those interested, gets into what we're talking about. Brothers and sisters, for those interested, we have this book that goes into the tribe of Dan pretty heavily as well. All right, you can get this online. All right, I'm going to send the link in the description of this video when it's uploaded. But getting back to this in the book, all right, in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 20, it distinctly says, whereby you, Israel, have forsaken the Most High. Jeremiah 16, verse 11, then thou shalt say unto them, because your fathers have forsaken me. One. Then it goes on to say, saith the Most High, and have walked after other gods, and have served them, and have worshipped them, and have forsaken me. Two times. Two times in Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 11, it mentions forsaking the Most High. The Jewish man, not changing the subject, but the Jewish man, we've always served Hashem. We've always kept Kasrut. We've always kept the Torah. Then you're not the wicked Israelites who forsook the Most High that Jeremiah is talking to. Jeremiah was a Levite. You know that? Jeremiah come from out of the line of Itamar, who was the son of Aaron, of the priest that was in Anatot, that was in the land of Benjamin. Benjamin, truthfully, yes, was in the southern kingdom. Jeremiah was a Levite that was of the house of Itamar, of the priest. He was of an Aaronite lineage. And he said concerning his people, like in Jeremiah 5, verse 22, Jeremiah 5, verse 26, for among my people are found wicked men. The Jewish man don't claim the wickedness of the house of Israel. I want to state this again. The Jewish man does not claim the wickedness of the house of Israel. So while he disassociates himself from the wickedness of the children of Israel, he cannot be laying claim to it. No more than this chart is true. This is not a true chart. Dan is not in there. Simeon is on the wrong side. So, brothers and sisters, in recapping and closing out this particular presentation, we started a little late. I wanted to start at 5. We started maybe 5:06, 5:10. And there is another presentation at 9 o'clock tonight. All right. For those who are interested, there's another presentation to be done tonight on this here. History Untold to the Masses, from Kemet to Compton. Kemet's Ancient Egypt. Compton is where I come to find out I got a relative over there in California, and that's where the Crip gang is at. So now when you begin to see, sadly, like it says in Isaiah, the young men hang at the head of the street, full of the fury of the Most High, the Jewish man don't lay claim to that. He don't lay claim to being of the house of Israel. He claims to be Jewish. He claims it's a religion. That's his philosophy, and so forth and so on. All right, now getting back, if we will, all right, and closing this particular matter out. looking at this here. Southern Kingdom, this chart is off. All right? Because would have had Simeon in there. And reason and purposes. All right? So now, brothers and sisters, in closing out, Dan is mentioned. All right? Dan is mentioned, brothers and sisters, after the death of Solomon. Dan is mentioned, brothers and sisters, shalom, shalom. Can I be heard? Press 1 if you can hear me. All righty. Thank you for that. We're closing out, but what we're going to say is that Dan is exiled, like we read in Deuteronomy 28, among his brothers. Dan is mentioned after the era of Solomon, because after Solomon, you had Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa. He's mentioned during the time of Asa. After Asa, you had Asa, Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa, Jehoshaphat, Jehoram. During the era of Jehoshaphat and Jehoram in the southern kingdom, you had Ahab in the northern kingdom. Ahab, during that era, Dan is mentioned in the scriptures. During the time of Josiah and Jehoiakim later on in the southern kingdom, Jeremiah chapter 4 mentions Dan. So there's different places where Dan is mentioned. So this right here, you can do that with it. And I say that no disrespect intended. That was part of the presentation, if you will. That is where it needs to be in the garbage. And we're going to close out in the word of the Most High. All right? Jeremiah. No, in this one, Ezekiel. We're going to go to Ezekiel chapter 48 and close out, brothers and sisters. All right? All right. Somebody wrote tribe of Dan in the building. That happens to be the tribe I claim, but that's not why I'm doing this, but just wanted to be noted. Ezekiel chapter 48 and verse 1 says this. All right. We're going to Ezekiel 48. We're going to cite everything that we're talking about. All right. Now these are the names of the tribes from the north end to the coast of the way of Hethlon, as one goeth to Hamath, Hazir Enah, the border of Damascus, northward to the coast of Hamath. For these are his sides, east and west, a portion for Dan. And by the border of Dan, from the east side unto the west side, a border for Asher. And by the border of Asher, from the east side unto the west side, a portion for Naphtali. Let's go. And by the border of Naphtali, from the east side unto the west side, a portion for Manasseh. And by the border of Manasseh, from the east side unto the west side, a portion for Ephraim. And by the border of Ephraim, from the east side even unto the west side, a portion for Reuben. And by the border of Reuben or Reuben, from the east side unto the west side, a portion for Judah. Ezekiel 48 gets into all of that. Then it goes on to say, right, in verse 23, Ezekiel, I'm going to put that in caps. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. 48, verse 23. Shalom to the people saying shalom. Thank you to the people who typed in 1. And we're going to continue. Ezekiel chapter 48, we're going to go into verse 23. And for the rest of the tribes, from the east side unto the west side, Benjamin shall have a portion. And by the border of Benjamin, from the east side unto the west side, Simeon shall have a portion. So hold up. In the future, you got all the tribes mentioned, from the Danites, who was into idolatry, from Reuben, who was into lasciviousness. Judah, who practiced idolatry. You have Benjamin, who were rapists. Issachar, who was into murdering. All of the people, we can name their wickedness. The tribe of Benjamin in time of Judges was, they was living on some old DL, if you will, in today's terminology. I have a wife, but yet he's still dealing with a man. That's what Benjamin was into. You had the tribe of Dan sitting up there kidnapping Levites and saying, you're now my priests. You have the book of Amos speaking of Judah and the house of Israel that said they pant after the poor for a pair of shoes. So, brothers and sisters, the wickedness of Israel that Jeremiah talks about, the wickedness of Israel that Ezekiel talks about, Jewish man don't claim. You can't lay claim as to why the people in the scriptures fell, then you cannot lay claim to the blessing that's going to come later on. All the priesthood, all the sons of Aaron dealt in taking bribes and sleeping with the women sexually when they went and brought up the offering, as Samuel's sons did. So if you want to talk about Israel, and this is the thing with the Old Testament, I want to point this out. When you're talking about the said Old Testament, so-called Old Testament, which is really the Tanakh, it's not going to give you, and everything was just perfect. Why? Because Israel is the son of God. No, it's not going to tell you that. It's going to say that Israel, my son, has gone astray. My son has been bad. That is more so what it will say, not a religious version, romanticized aspect. It's not going to give you that, brothers and sisters. You understand? We want to point that out. Ezekiel, the 48th chapter, has not happened yet. Speaking as a so-called Old Testament brother, Tanakh brother, if you will, our revelation in the scriptures is in Ezekiel 34 to Ezekiel 48. I want to, in respect, explain why we say what we say and what we're talking about for edification purposes, brothers and sisters. Ezekiel, the 48th chapter, pardon me, Ezekiel, the 35th chapter, if we will, talks about the destruction of Edom, as does Ezekiel chapter 36. Ezekiel 37 talks about the dry bones coming back. Ezekiel 38 and 39 talks about Israel going to war against Japheth and Hamites. Ezekiel 40 speaks of Ezekiel in the future court of the Israelites, land-wise. Ezekiel 41 speaks about the temple and the construction of it. Ezekiel 42 speaks of the chambers of the court that Ezekiel saw regarding the Israelites in their kingdom. Ezekiel 43 speaks of the glory of the Most High going into the temple. Ezekiel 44 speaks of the order of the prince in Israel and the priests. Ezekiel 45 speaks about the offerings, which shows us that offerings will be done in the future. Ezekiel 46 speaks of the prince of Israel keeping the holy days. Ain't nobody arguing about no calendar then. All right, going on. Israel knows what I'm talking about. Ezekiel 47 speaks of the division of the land and a river in the sanctuary. And as we read, Ezekiel 48 speaks of the tribes of Israel in their land. That day has not come to pass yet, brothers and sisters. That prophecy has not come to pass yet. In the prophecy that has not yet come to pass, in Ezekiel 48, Dan is mentioned. So, brothers and sisters, this in Spanish, no disrespect to anyone, basura, this ashpa in Hebrew, we're going to show what to do with false information and no scriptural citations. This is not to say that I never taught something that had to been corrected. I sat there in a book and said that the mothers of the Israelites were the Arameans. I had to go and change it, make a video for those who already bought the book so they won't be misled. But when I talk to a person about this, the arrogance and the belligerence won't even sit there and allow someone to say, my bad, let me sit there and change it. So this is what we do. That's where that goes. Ripped to not be used again. Because, brothers and sisters, all the 12 tribes of Israel will come back to Yah. but only a remnant of those tribes. Of all the tribes, there's only going to be a remnant. So we're going to conclude, brothers and sisters, in this manner, giving honor and praise unto Yah, the creator, the maker of heaven and earth. Stay tuned tonight on the same channel. Thankful to the people who participated in here. We have another one. History Untold to the Masses, Part 3, from Kemet to Compton. Subscribe to the channel, headed by the brother Mora Yiftach, by the name of Shomrei Habrit. I'll put that name in here. All right. You may want to subscribe to these channels too. Shomrei Habrit. And another channel, in Levitical Communications. That's my teacher, Kohen Mikael. That's his channel. So, brothers and sisters, again, this was supposed to have been, as you can see here, January 8th. I'm sorry, I didn't do it. I was exhausted. So we're going to do that presentation tonight, 9 p.m. on this channel. For those interested, thank you. Comment, like, share. Let me know what you think. Brothers and sisters, go to this website as well. midnightpublications.com. You can get the books, brothers and sisters, that we were talking about in this particular manner. This one here, Israelite History as it relates to the world, which was released last month, Todah Yah. Todah meaning thanks, Yah meaning the creator, thank the Most High. This book here, as well as, brothers and sisters, this is honestly my favorite book I wrote. This book here, From Assyria to America. You want to know history? Yeah. Yeah. This one here. Yeah. Thanks to the Most High for that. All right. The Hebrew books. Hebrews Easy Volume 1. Volume 2. Again, giving due respect on a human level to the sister Fab Aim who made the cover. Volume 3. Volume 4. Volume 5. And Volume 6. This is not my Isha. See, people that say, yo, is that your Isha? That's your wife? No, it's my mom's who's deceased. All right, for those who know. So, brothers and sisters, just want to point that out for evidence purposes. All right. If you were to go on Amazon and go to Hebrews Easy Volume 6 and read when Amazon says, look into the book, you would have saw, and I say this not being in my feelings, that woman there that you saw was a woman who helped on a human level set me on the path of who the Most High is, the one who is due honor and respect. And so, brothers and sisters, closing out, again, join on 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, all right, for this presentation from Kemet to Compton, brothers and sisters, in this particular matter for those who are interested. And the description will be put in for those who want the books, for those who patronize and got the book. I appreciate it and thank you. Brothers and sisters, none of this would matter coming from me if a brother didn't live any kind of right way. I am glad to be able to keep on endorsing the books because anybody who paid for it got it. Nobody's coming back, brother, I didn't get the book that I bought. Not for me. Lo tiknob, ziwa Elohim. The Most High commanded, thou shalt not steal. Shalom.